first fall session of Helicon West.
Turn it on.
Turn it on. Usually people are telling me to shut up. How about that? No?
I don't know.
There we go. We now continue with our regularly scheduled programming. Susan wanted to have me remind you that there are some free poetry books in the back, so
Magazines.
use those magazines and etc.
Free
as you walk through.
for all. Take some, please.
Awesome.
Thank you.
2 weeks from now, on September 26th, a close friend of mine and member of my writing group, Eric Bishop, will be our featured guest. He has published his first novel called The Samaritan's Pistol, so I encourage you all to come back to see Eric read. We would also like to thank, before I move on, our founder, S. Star, who is beautiful and talented. Our guest reader tonight is Jack Remick, who will be presenting at the League of Utah Writers Conference over the weekend. And when we found out we were getting him, I gave him a call and said, gee, I know you're flying in from Seattle, going to be teaching conference stuff the entire weekend, then flying back on Sunday, but would you mind driving 200 miles and reading to a bunch of people in addition? And he said, okay. And so it's been a lot of fun. I got to drive down with him, and you guys are in for a real treat. Jack Remick is a poet, a short story writer, and a novelist. He's worked underground as a tunnel rat. He's been a social worker, a school teacher, a bus driver, a retail clerk, a turkey debeaker, and a house painter. He wrote with Thomas Gunn and J.S. Moody. He came of age in North Beach watching the Beat Poets shape the literary future. He was a member of the Seattle 5+1 poetry performance group. He is the author of 8 novels, 2 story collections, and numerous short stories. Lambda Literary's Wayne Gunn called Jack's novel Blood, published in 2011, a masterful prison novel in which the iridescence of the language sweeps the reader through 120 chapters. Coffeetown Press in Seattle published Gabriella and the Widow in 2013 and has brought out 2 volumes of the California Quartet. The 3rd novel, The Book of Changes, will hit the shelves in October 2013. Satori Poems will appear in 2014, also from Coffeetown Press. In May 2013, Jack ran 2 workshops for the League of Utah Writers St. George chapter. Now, those of you who've traveled on a plane know how difficult it is just to get through with your own luggage, much less a whole crap load of books, which is why our table back there is bare. That having been said, he's an exceptional author, and I'm sure you're going to see that in a few minutes. So, if you would care to, when you get home, peruse his titles on Amazon, they are Blood, The Deification, Valley Boy, Book of Changes, Gabriella and the Widow. Or you can just hit his author page at Amazon.com. So, without further ado, Jack.
I really do want to thank Tim and Star and Mitch and Mark for making this such a wonderful welcome. They took me out to dinner and fed me good stuff, and they even prepared this little thing for me, which I've never had this happen before. I just love this. I'm going to keep it forever. I'm like, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll keep it. Is that going to be loud enough? Can you hear me? Am I carrying all right? Let me see which pair of glasses I need. When I read, I like to preface my readings by paying homage to the poets who helped me get here where I am. 2 great poets in my life have been Tom Gunn, whom I met at Berkeley, and Jack Moody, who I met when I was first starting out. He and I worked together for a long time, and I didn't know anything, and one day in my glorious mind I said, Jack, have you ever written an epic poem? And he said, 6 lines or 8. And that sort of gave me an idea about what the future held for me as a poet. Could I get that deep, that fast, in that short period of time? And the answer, Jack, I'm sorry to say, is I could not. But I want to start with one of his poems from his book, Weather of the Mind, printed in 1964, From Waters Underground. When the dream comes, the sea-deep mind speaks. Words from the wave, a voice from waters profound. After cessation of all surface sound, the dream speaks. The voice is a voice translated from all tongues, all times, to speak one language, sunlight clear. English or old Chinese stand equal here when the voice comes. As consciousness relents, we hear the sum spoken of all the lies that men have known. When mirrored in that dark pool of our own, the waters open and the dreams come. I like to read without too much conversation, so I'll just read the title and the poem. Coyote. They've kicked out my teeth. I don't sleep anymore. Weather rams a storm down over the mountains, driven by wind into rain. Thunder, the grindstone of earth, rips the edges off the sky. Sliding under the rumble, I hear Coyote talk up on the ridge, telling the kids tales of shotguns and poison meat and foot traps. They yip and yell. Their primitive poetry is a mystery I understand. Primal voices in harmony, six-point harmony, four-fang harmony, tooth and claw counterpoint laid down over a melody of bounty hunters and poison traps and plows. Coyotes figure odds better than a New York bookie. They sing opera you won't hear at the Met, and the lyrics go. Okay, you bunch of bastards, run with us, see if you can keep up, nail this hide to your wall. I know I'm in the wrong race. I look at the sky and thunder, what happened to my blood that ran wild and said, screw you to the bankers and the builders? I need to get back up there on that ridge and howl at the plow, the bounty hunters, and the poison in my gut. Osiris of Orchards. My roots are in the Dust Bowl, where my grandfather spat days' work into a can as he watched the horizon for winds that blew his seed away. My father, a young pariah hiding from bulls in the belly of a train, saw the land unfold and wondered why his dreams had been eaten by dust. The dust drove him westward. Often he lay down in darkness, not knowing if he would rise. He became faceless under his cap, tracking dusty vineyards, his ache melding him into every man, an Osiris of orchards. The light in his eyes turned dim, and he, in angry emptiness, did not envision offspring who one day would call his troublesome times past and not understand his sorrow. And she, my mother, sprung firstborn from generations whose sweat made earth gush forth, whose human trees peopled the wind-swept prairies. She endured with the patience all my kin have known, the hope born of love and waiting for grain. The winds have died down back there. I do not venture back there. The roots have shriveled. My father is dead. His seed grows in this place where we will be forever. As a kid, I sort of worshipped the beat poets. Used to go to San Francisco trying to see if by proximity I could absorb some of that power. It didn't work. But I was able to write a few poems about it. Breathless. I took First Communion on the steps of the Jazz Cellar, too young to buy my own booze, too dumb to steal it. I heard Rex Roth rip the nation naked over the beat of conga drums and horns crystal in the night. At 16, I hated everything that moved or had a price tag on it. I wanted to grow under the sky in the city of St. Francis, away from the heat of the valley where the fruit that fed America poisoned my green age. 17 and dreaming, Bill Hansen and I flew up 99 into Fort Fairlane, holy barbarians who craved the Satori that never came. We carved our way out of the valley to the bay where the rhythms of poetry were a junkie's waking visions, his veins choked with banned chemicals, where spaced out garbage men thrashed through Canada's hallucinations of cruel women in black stockings and turtlenecks, women who never said yes, women who smoked dope and always said maybe. I ate noodles in Chinese restaurants on Columbus Street with Howell in my left hand and Coney Island of the Mind in my right. I lied about my age in the Black Hawk, where Saxes wailed odes to weird worlds not even Herb Cain knew existed. We aped Dean Moriarty, we aped Sal Paradise, we imagined lives in bummed-out hotels in the Mission District where $2 bought you a room or a bottle of very bad wine, and 25 got you 15 minutes from a dark-haired woman with circles under her eyes and a tattoo on her ankle. But we always went back to Fresno on Sunday night. One day, I walked into City Lights. I was 18. I said, Mr. Ferlinghetti, here I am. Tell me the secrets. I want to be a poet, but I do not know how. He sat on an orange crate. He said, read the sun, feed your mind, keep the beat. I didn't. The holy barbarians became anthropologists and chemists and cooks and bus drivers. I learned about value. It comes in the economy size. It's kids with snotty noses and wet diapers screaming housework poetry in your ear. The acid age came and Vietnam ripped scars 10 years deep, and I was not a poet. In the murky vision of aspirin bottles and department store bills, I grew older and pseudo-wise. I created canticles to the monsters of my ego and id. I fell down Sartrean holes that read, no exit. At 25, the jazz cellar still beat in my grad school ears. I dreamed of Rex Ross shouting, you killed him, you killed him, you killed him, you son of a bitch in your goddamn Brooks Brothers suit. The enemy was everywhere. He was greed, feasting on the vision bone. He fed poets to automobiles and few apartments. I became the captain of circles. The light that flashed at the end of my pen did not pray to the muse in the well of my mind. My roots had shriveled in the Fresno sun. Salvation was not at hand. And then, one day in December, God slammed soul into my chest. I heard Irene Drennan read her city poems. She was a chanting, black-eyed demon of 100 coffee houses, her lips scorching microphones with mating music. I knew her in black tights twitching down Grand Avenue. She was the incarnation, the sweet, sweaty dream of beatitude that shattered itself in drugs and dead men hurled from rooftops into the yellow pages where life was reduced to an ad for personal services. The waters opened and she rose up. A tidal wave surfing me back to the beat, back to the hungry boy who ached for the satori of orange crates. She sang music that blew my network the way a power spike blasts your PC. Her art shattered my eyeballs. She ripped my brain out of my skull, jammed me back into a language landscape of burned out poets high on couplet dreams. But I cannot go back to the valley now. The poison in the gut has not changed to honey. North Beach is a sacred grove where my heroes died and were resurrected as name plaques on alleyways beside city lights where Ferlinghetti told me to keep the beat through the wars of your life. Do not kill your mind, he said, or let Wall Street eat your muse, he said. Dive into caverns, measureless to men, he said. Bring back gossamer visions, serve them up to hungry boys, starve for nirvana in the computer age. Tim asked me to read both fiction or prose and poetry. I wanted to read one small short section from The Deification, which is a novel about beats. It's a code novel. If you know the code, you know who the characters are. The poet returns to the city and he's crazy. 6 o'clock, Market Street, drunk. Trolleys rumble underground, garage trucks clunk dunkers into their black bellies, eat the leftover of nighttime excesses, belch black streams of gas that ignite against the brown leather sky, now tinged with pink at the edges like a man with eye disease rotting from the rim's end. Heart still ticking CO-filled blood into the mechanical booze-soaked brain that works to the tune of DJs with holes in their tongues, spiked with the lies of Listerine and begging forgiveness for the horrors of morning. Eddie eats it up. Eats up the burst of dawn on the back roads of his eyes as he eats up the drunks who slither against brick walls, heads bobbing, tongues coated with the yellow slime of bad wine. He digs the smells of the decaying city oozing out of the yellow gut of night. He loves the feel of concrete, loves the feel of fog biting his face. He stumbles up Market ready to die in the sun and the cars and the tourists who ache for summer and the freshness of a new day that never comes. He recites everything he has ever learned, every poem racing into his hot and fevered brain. He recites the odes to a G-string goddess until her words burn holes in his tongue in back alleys of Lower Mission, where smells feed into frantic visions of rotten, sick women. Where he walks, he leaves trails of poetic diamonds strung in the minds and eyes and ears of hungry men who need no mattresses to sleep on, men who need no pillows to rest on, men who have no fences to mend, men lost in the endless night, invisible and hurt and bleeding. When Eddie, the madman with long hair boiling down his back and dirt under his fingernails, chants Dugan's love song to the city while standing half naked on the steps of the post office, they bow their heads in respect. Words gush out of him, divine madness, true and pure, lighting him up, flowing out of him, words so clean and awful, they beat rhythm, not heard, not felt, not seen ever. And the white light of the thorn in his cock burns through his mind, cauterizing his tongue, and he speaks, chants, rants, sweat dripping in his eyes. And this is why he melted into Alma in the hot water, and took his blood from the cup of the grotto as he drank dictation from the gods that blistered his tongue, words unknown until he spoke them. The exploding poet in a gilded cage, words spring up before him, solid chunks of concrete, images of the death queen, vulture queen, waiting, measuring his time, with each word a clock beat, time, time, and her terrible white thighs and shocks of black hair, and her cum on his hands dripping God's sperm divine word, and out of the sun burning hot at his brain, the voices charge on horseback thunder. The men with no hope in their eyes roar and chant and clap when he shouts, I am the living God, I am the offspring of Ginsberg, begat in the unholy mouth of William S. Burroughs. I have a selection of poems called The Dysfunctional City. Axeman. The Axeman plays good morning on an unfiltered camel to the alley behind 403 Columbus Street. The alley, a brick blind track spotted with garbage cans like the dents on his arms, bruised with the I don't want to live signs of death, come and eat me. The black knights and the blonde-haired woman work their way out of his chest. The cough counterpoints the hurt, the junk, and the women, his fixations, each one a chord change, blonde sharp modulating to blonde flat, but always in the key of blonde and junk. She rolls over, arms spiking an empty pillow, reeking with dreams, doing a double accidental leg slide from under the sheet, a trombone begging. He looks at the skin behind her knees where the swell of the thighs rises up a crescendo, and he does not remember playing that tune. The camel smokes between his knees, on his lips a white leper wound. The tag of paper hurts when he picks it loose. He sucks in smoke, it hits his lungs, his cough burns until he swings beside her, head against the brown wall, and she curls up against him like someone she knows. Spots of sweat on his side, a blonde field of wheat on the gray pillow in a downbeat North Beach hotel with street heat and a clerk who never asked for an address. Good morning, she says, a rasp boiling from a clotted chest, a spring breaking. He wishes he checked the purse for a name to call the face under the eyebrows. She sits up, scratching the way the worn-out ones do, the blonde hair a tangle over an anchor tattoo, and a heart with an arrow pointing nowhere. No coffee, honey? She trembles. He stubs out the camel in a half-inch of watery Jim Beam, goes to the bathroom where he unmasks the face and the pain and the beard and the tag of white paper on his lip. And when he comes back, she is on her feet in stiletto heels with ankle straps and a black belt dress cinched thick at the waist. Still no name for the shaking hands with the stains on the fingernails or the blue eyes dull with the morning after who are you unanswered. And he thinks, did we look like this at 3 a.m.? Fugue for 3 a.m. At 3 a.m. you drop the blade on a table littered with bottles and half-chewed sandwiches after we crashed through a night of ruins and acid writhing. You beg death to come, anything you said to make the hurt go away. And then you cracked, you lay down in your worms of agony. At 4 a.m. the sides gave way. The vermin in your brain clawed their maggot crawl out of the carcass. They pupated on the branches of your mind. They melted out of your skin that you scraped howling and crying. The screech of beasts when we growled and hissed like snakes. Nothing, you said, can draw me back to light. Not even the soft, smiling innocence that shimmers in you. In the night we relived the fall, the spring, the decay, the sweet hay baby of the pimps and the coat hanger whipped whores who kept you company while the Candyman's lice crawled your blood. Destroy them, but how without destroying you? They were you, the eyes, the ruin, the ruiners, the empty unholy who you became in your lace and red high heels and silk underwear. You, black rose, I kissed your honey lips that tasted like the money side of love. You slept. I watched sun crash down the hallways of night, seeping starlight, it broke, the black hurled out, but daylight did not slaughter bread. I wanted to be in that other time when you stood before the mirror and I caressed your flashing reflection. At 5 a.m. you felt the void, you saw yourself curve away from the infinity of veins and you cried, forgive me. But where is redemption on a cross of broken glass for arms ripped and scarred? You fell in love with the Lord of emptiness. You wanted to curl up in the belly of his spoon. You were wood hungering for fire. You are now burned in the crucible. You left me for the beast of night. You hammered in the gates of hell and loosed the dead to eat the living. The birds of prey found us in death's kiss, then fluttered air's last sigh, and the wind slid from you, and the small bird took wing. There was no ceremony, no ritual of bells. The police chant no incantations for the dead. They do not smile. They wear gloves as they probe your body and wait for the medical examiner to pronounce you DOA. On your death day, I laid you soft into the black and filled the gulf with other men's crippled songs. I now live on the edge, a pen in one hand, a razor in the other. I put ads in the paper saying, will you help me cut the thread? Will you hold my hand? Will you guide the blade to slide me into forever when I flow onto a motel floor to join you where we will be swept away with the morning dust? This next poem, I have to tell you this. This next poem, the imagery in this poem is a lot of it inspired by a book called When Jesus Came, the Corn Mothers Went Away. It's a history of Catholicism in the American Southwest and what happened to the primal mothers and all that implied. In order to keep the men, the monks in the monasteries from forming homoerotic reflections on Jesus, instead of turning the stigmata, vertical or horizontal the way it was, they repainted the paintings and made it vertical like the vagina, so that it was all right to have sexual feelings for the female in Jesus. Okay? This poem, Jesus Christ, Mother Gash, still in the city, lost city poems. I am lost in the middle zone, blood filled with crystal. My bones crack, muscles rattle. I smell the thick, raw, red air and sleep on the pain-hard sidewalks, eating the leftovers of the industrial love affair, rejected by my bosses who steal everything that crawls on the street where little boys selling gum say, are you sick, senor, and point at the dollar sign tattooed on my forehead. I am the corrupting angel of the dark city, soaked with the semen and sweat of thyroid dreams, where death worms deep in the skin, where needles of glass inject me with diesel AIDS monoclap, where midget death cries, open up, I need a heart to rest in. But I resist him, slam against the bar, cry, no, no, leave me, pass me by. Go eat my brother, mother, sister, aunt, but leave me. Needle death drives into my lungs and to my eye, and I spread out, belly weeping, wet to my knees, spiked to the floor with Christ's finger bones, and then I see him. Jesus Christ on a bar stool, drinking Boilermakers. Jesus Christ, Lord of Snakes. Jesus Christ, Lord of Worms. Jesus Christ, blonde and black garters, flashes her mother-legged, Mother Gash bikini dress legs slick like salmon skin. She whispers, stroke the mother swell of my breast. Take me, I'm what's left. I'll bury you in my blood and my bone. On my knees, I taste the honey of his thighs, and he comes moaning, yeast mold on his tongue and grapes in his eyes. And I say, am I saved? Am I saved? Tell me, am I saved? St. Teresa in ecstasy. Lie with me and suck grape juice from the twisted vines buried in my hunger mouth. With your fingers, pluck the leafy green buds boiling off my swollen tongue. Slick the bruised lips of these urging heavy wet kisses. My mouth is so full of you. You fill me with your groan and your ache. And when you had me, finished me, pour me out, writhing in the dust, a green vine snake around your arched ankle. Spread me out under your heat until I feel the all of you bleed against me. Bulge me up again, a mountain breaking. Oh my God, the second coming is the milk your honey pleads, and I die in guttural rush rising. The gushing mouth floods me. Please, will you please unnail me when I am dead? This is a very long poem. Honey word of Jesus Christ. I was 6 the day God crawled out of my mother's mouth, a snake out of an egg. Words she spoke fluttered angel wings, and the congregation sang. I watched God crawl from my mother's mouth. She spoke the language before sin, before corruption, before Babel, the pure tongue, honey tongue, snake egg tongue. She spoke on Sundays. The elders enraptured said it out for the congregation. I was 7. I saw God in my mother's mouth, and he was fish slipping off her tongue, and I could not love him, though great be the glory of God. The wheel of Ezekiel rolled into my yard. I was 8. It was the end of the world. I ran to my mother, praying on her knees. I said, Mama, the seal is broken. She took my head in her hands. She kissed me. Did you hear his horn, my son? She said, his horn. I went back into the yard. I was 8. Ezekiel's wheel was only the sun, writhing on a Crisco can, writhing in the sun. I was her gift to God. I was 9. I walked from our house to tabernacle. I walked the aisle to the pulpit. I spoke of heaven and hell and miracles to a world awestruck that this 9-year-old boy had the word. It was God in the word on my tongue, speaking with my tongue, divine fire on my tongue. And I spoke, and the women said, it is a miracle, this boy speaking the work of God. I am the blessing and the sacrament. I am the spirit and the flesh. They wanted me to fill them up when their lives ran empty. They wanted me to feed them and suffer their pain. And I loved them, those women, their blind sons, their trembling daughters. I loved them under my hands. The spirit flowed into them, and I healed them, and I was 10. I grew snake powers. My congregation chanted me. Oh, sweet Jesus, will he live? Will Satan kiss his lips? Will he be dead before us? I held them, kissed them, serpents, and the congregation chanted. He has the gift. He has the power of Abraham. He has the power of Moses. Sundays I preached in tongue. I was 11. Sundays my fingers became snakes. Sundays sweating with copperhead. Sunday snakes wrapped my body, liquid silk over my body. The skin of Satan tamed by the honey tongue of Jesus. I was virtue, temptation, churning on my arm. Sweet Jesus, I am the honey and the bounty. I was the wheat and the rye. I am the water and the snow. I am the ice. I was 12. At 12, I held the house in my hand. I told them to stand, and they stood. When I was 12, I told them to dance, and they danced. And when I was 12, I held the light of Jesus, and fire rained through me and into the ground and up into their feet, and they danced, and I had the power. I told them to sing, and they sang. They sang, asking me to save them. But how many ways was I to save them? I almost forgot about Jesus. I almost forgot about God. I was so full of heaven. I had become the flesh, and I was 13. They offered their lives in their palms. They said, yes, yes, boy God, take this and this. They were ecstatic to see the flesh of Jesus on fire, and I was 14. I healed, I cured, they loved me, and I was 15, and I was raptured and enraptured. I was the tree of life dripping its blood fruit. I was the lamb of the sword. I was the light and temptation. I was salvation and the resurrection. I was 17. I shivered and shouted, humble in the kiss. Death writhed in my hands. I held death writhing in the tangle of skin and rattle. One Sunday, I grew old. One Sunday, I learned of the man in me. One Sunday, my hand turned to stone. Dread bloomed in my heart. I could not force my hand into the coil. Viper sin, serpent skin. Please, please, my mother chanted, retelling me of Jesus. But I wept. My mother's hand touched my tongue, once honeyed with the taste of Jesus. But I wept. My mother's hand fell away. I lost the Lord when I lost her. My tongue was cut away. One Sunday, I walked from the tabernacle apostate, God's soul, a withered scab on my tongue. Then I was the power. Now I am the void. Now I am empty. Then I was full. Then I was rich. Now I am poor. I am as the empty heavens, and the emptiness is his shadow in my eye. I got fascinated with the Middle Ages a few years ago. I became especially fascinated with the Dance of Death as a result of the plague. I discovered a book called The Dance of Death at Bâle, which is a Swiss canton, and I thought, we've had a few plagues in our time, so I wanted to update the Dance of Death. Death waits. Death waits at the corner, an old woman for the light. She eats in a trolley car diner, knife in her left hand, fork in her right. I sit beside her, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green peas, corn on my plate. She picks at a piece of pecan pie stacked high with whipped cream. Book in hand, death opens my page, reads my ritual of sins. Kleptomania, sloth, gluttony, jealousy, lust. Life, she says, is a feast you've gorged on. Bones and viscera. Lions eat the gut first, she says. I eat dessert first. I eat you. You've had your fun. I have watched you play, eat, drink, think you're immune to the pox. I will hang you on meat hooks, eat your brain, suck your heart out, crush your peccadillos into dreams. You thought no one was watching. Death cuts a hunk of her pecan pie. The sugar crystals flake away like skin rotting from the bone. Fork, tines, jaws. She slurps up the sugary sweet skin, cracks pecans in her teeth. Her mouth opens on lips the color of sun-jerked meat. She says, here, let me feel your face. Fingers in black gloves stroke my throat. Nails, velvet hooks, rip chunks from my cheeks. Your blood tastes like honey to me. Your mouth feels like silk to me. Your bones are candy. Don't play with death, she whimpers, unless you know what you're doing. She pats her skirt over those ebony hips, bares her belly, the red hourglass molds her mother milk breasts with spindly fingers, nails inked black, and she says, you are mine. From the moment of your first breath until you break, you are mine. Wear the skin of the cloth of skin, wear the meat maggot, the bone racket, for as long as you dare, but don't ask for more than your hour. The light is turning green, turning black. Death dresses in a pale jacket of Chinese silk. Boots of chamois and pearl, boots silvered. Her blouse is carmine, a diamond brooch graces her sunken throat, and on the skin a dusting of glitter like a carnival balloon. A ruby ring dots her forehand. Sinner, she says, do you love me? Do you love my ruby ring, my dappled breast? Do you love my trembling thighs, my wetness? She laughs, the laugh grows to a screech, the screech falls into a groan. I grasp my chest, bile burns my gorge. What are you doing to me? Marrying you, my love, she whispers. She licks my ears, strokes my neck. I'll wait for you in the chapel at 3 a.m. My hour runs down, tick by tick to zero. In the abyss, I kiss her breasts, her legs open wide, I slide in. I come from the Pacific Northwest where they have a lot of trees, but you wouldn't know it when you look at all the clear cuts. So this is a poem called Memory of Wood. Trees are bones of the killed land, bones scattered like lost children on the banks of mud creeks under gray skies, bones of time in moonscape wasteland, roots whitening in soil sterilized by prophet, roots holier than the bones of saints, roots shrivel into cracked tangles and stumps probe for their phantom limbs enshrined on Elm Street. I walk through the slain forest, through the bark-stripped trunks, through 2x4 rows of the dead without markers or headstones. In the bedroom, my fingers touch an inlaid box, a cherry limb carved into a jewelry tomb. There is no sky here. In the spackled ceiling, a nostalgia of stars ignited by 100-watt bulbs. And in the corners of the living room, I hear a chorus of cries from picture frames. I look for the war-wounded blind, but see portraits of corporation presidents in suits and ties. Creaks rise from the floor, an oak elegy, chairs and tables shriek. The house, dried skin of once live wood, speaks to its dead, contains itself, me. A veneered chest, flayed, skulks mute against the plasterboard wall. It cannot see the ruin, though some memory must remain of roots and leaves and slaughter and blood from a ripped-out tongue. I've written a number of poems for dead artists of all kinds. This is for Maurice Cornelius Escher, the lithographer. We were going to San Francisco to see his show at the Vorpal Gallery the day he died. The day he died, it was a warm day to feed the dog of death. At noon, under a blue sky in the city of St. Francis, the angel of dread was a motorcycle cop with insect eyes, his head a hard white shell. I didn't see that light, I said, as he wrote numbers in his book. His bone hard mouth crushed my morning wail for the dead man's black fields on a paper white world. The ticket lay on my hand like a tombstone, $25, U-turn against the red in a ragtop yellow Volkswagen. The motorcycle looped through traffic, a black and white worm gnawing holes in that metal river. At the Vorpal Gallery, the sign said, "No show, the artist has died." Escher blasted open the underworld of insects and bell towers. The day he died, I measured my face in the mirror and saw the wax-pale and ash shadow of this man who opens doors in castles with no start, no stop. His waterfalls rush from foaming seas. 23 years into his death stream, this man still aches his bones down to the asphalt city, curled like a lizard writhing in rain. He still feeds me his mind heat. His voice says, "Build a world of black and white, of mind, rage, and metal. Go into that night for the stones of your fallen dreams. Go dig jewels of pain from the word mind, bone-racked boy. You find the other side of black in the yellow slit at the edge of time." At my back, I hear the click of insects, the clatter of jaws in the hard white shell. He is dead. All the instruments agree. Earth opens to receive his gore and his bone and his brain. This man who lived inside the eye and taught us backward vision. He is stone in the mother heart. His eyes no longer see. I'm a child of the 60s, don't deny it. I inhaled. Jimi Hendrix sings Purple Haze. We streaked the White House lawn and listened to Marjo preach. We crunched hash brownies and tripped inside ginger baker ribs that curl your teeth out of your gums. And in my blacklight pad with a mattress on the floor and a dozen yogurt cartons spread out, meadow flowers in a Cambodian killing field, we rolled in Crisco and listened to Jim Morrison break his mother's heart. We smeared wheat germ on alfalfa sprouts. The food tasted brown. Everything was good for you, but some things you did not swallow, no matter if the book said it was okay. We heard Janis Joplin tear her throat apart, chord by progression down to ground zero. We were naked and high on rope-sized joints of Colombian red, and then one night it ended in the hate on Scott Street with a bunch of bad Percodan and the San Francisco Mine Troupe improvising stoned, naked, except for the boys, because nothing masked the dead boys on the beds upstairs, arms still spiked. And we were still naked, but rolling in blood, all the way to Woodstock, all the way to Altamont, where mafiosi with big grins sold baggies of paraquat grass to girls with long hair and no shoes, girls who ate pills of cut glass and said, "Mama, where am I?" as they bled to death. After Altamont, we got our jeans back on, and half stoned, wrote a herpes orgasm that lasted 10 years and left us pissing blood. But we smiled and said, "It was worth it, baby. I'm glad I did it, and I'd do it again. But why does it have to hurt so much?" We pulled on logo t-shirts and designer jeans and put the bed up on an antique frame and dumped the yogurt cartons in the recycle bin and unpacked the brewback and got cool again and smoked strange tasting Marlboros with nothing but tobacco in them. And we ate chocolate cake off crystal plates, drinking our fears out of latte cups as we checked each other over, fingers probing in rubber gloves for those pinhead scars. And then we bought Armani suits and London fogs and went to drink wine coolers in bars beside the still jukebox where the music had stopped. But the records went round and round. I remember Jimmy. I was there. I remember Jimmy. Are we doing on time?
5 more minutes.
5 minutes. I have a decision to make, and I want you to help me make it. But while you're thinking about whether you want to hear love poems or a long autobiographical poem, let me know. 2 poems about aging. I eat my vegetables every day, but I won't live forever. I take vitamin E and ginkgo biloba every day, but I will not live forever. Tuesdays I drink coffee at Cafe News, Wednesday mornings read poems, and on Friday work my memoir with Sherman Lee, who is one hell of a writer but never finishes anything. He will die too. I peel the fat off the skinless chicken breast that I broil, and I eat broccoli and cauliflower, but I will not live forever. On Monday mornings at 10 o'clock, John Verrill and I solve the world's problems over a waffle and mint tea. He is 90 and expects to die any day now, but he hangs on, his metaphysics a thread anchoring to earth, because what if there isn't anything after? My wife is a sweet woman who says hola when she comes home from work, but she will not help me live forever. I will die one day, soon, leaving not much, and that's okay. Not even broccoli can stop the Grim Reaper. Sex, cigarettes, and motorcycles. My doctor says I gotta give up sex and cigarettes and motorcycles because I ain't wired for 220 anymore. My go, go, go is gone, 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 she says. My reflexes zero out at 35 miles per hour. So I pull in my horns and back off and settle down for quiet nights in front of the TV watching Lawrence Welk reruns. The fastest thing I know is X-Lax. When I go to bed, I dream of prune juice. I was not always the time wreck, you see. I used to handle the quick snap from center. I used to drink acid by the cupful. I was a pirate haunting the fast lane cool in black jeans on the prowl. I was hell on wheels, a fire-breathing 2 a.m. kind of guy in Kawasaki Overdrive, singing about the way down kind of stuff that myths are made of. But then the testosterone gave out and the androgen went on vacation. And now, when I see an earth goddess in white tight shorts wrapped in a blue convertible, I whip my head around to catch that flash, that leg, but for a week the only thing that's stiff is my neck. Now I fish sitting on the riverbank, trolling for a perch, a carp maybe, something that doesn't fight too much. Good grief, I get breathless walking my dog. I couldn't stop a bread truck if I was hungry. Here's a history of my life as a poet, midnight poet. This will be the last one. I'm a midnight poet on the coffeehouse circuit. I breathe the mold of nightlife, stir gray dawn with bent coffee spoons. I crawl through sawdust, begging for applause from doe-eyed women with slack-jawed lovers draped on their shoulders. I work the room where angel-faced girls do homework on dead poets while I grind out divine rhythms, drive my hips and my tongue to Olympian heights. My gut burns with oracular fire, but the women look up only when I say the F word. Seeing that I am no one famous, they go back to their iPads and their exercises in English 101.
I didn't do much writing over the summer, and I'm ashamed of that, so this is some older stuff.
Aww. Do you need the mic down toward you a little bit? So, yeah.
I'm 5'1".
And those are amazing 5 feet. Yeah.
This poem is called Serendipity. He listens like a deaf boy, and she sees like the blind. Their entire world's made up of silence and black. Until one morning, walking down a cold and darkened street, he and she, without intention, accidentally meet. And as they stand with knocking knees, inexplicably he listens, and suddenly she sees. This is a poem about my father. My father is the hunter, with smells of autumn and hides of deer, creeping through the branches, trees trembling in the morning, sunlight breaking there and here. He crests the tops of mountains but doesn't stop, but keeps rising to the sky. He becomes the mountain, the trees, the rocks, and springs. He stays there in the morning with shivering frost and smells of cold, burning cedar branches in the first scatterings of snow. And this one is called The Stranger. I look curiously at the man sitting opposite me and wonder why his face is that of a bulldog's and not a man's. His fat jowls hang in the same fashion as the saliva on his chin that dangles cheerily in the subway lights. His hands are folded in his lap, a little bloated but perfectly human. Likewise, crossed proper-like, his feet are clad in dapper Sunday shoes, and his slacks meet his ankles just perfectly. But that face! He snorts tremendously and rolls a thick pink tongue across his lips. I shake my head and stand to move to another car. I never really liked dogs.
think I'm fine. Yeah, this is a small chair, so it moves.
Pull that. Oh, yeah.
Wow. It's a little far, but. Okay, I'm ready. My poetry sucks, you gotta show. I think I need to fix, it's a lot slower than used to. All right, first poem I'm reading because for Susan Nikos, because Aaron volunteered me to do it. It's called Rise Up, Desdemona. Rise up, Desdemona, burn your willow's song. Brace your arms to the canopy, wrap him in naked limbs. Rise up, Desdemona, then fall when you are spent. Take from him his kerchief, remove its Bianca sin. Rise up, Desdemona, put a dagger to his chin. Remind him of your virtue that only he has entered in. And the second poem is called The City. In the back of the room, geography lesson droning on, Bolivia producing 20% of all the world's bauxite, the main source of aluminum, named after Lebeau, France, and I drew a line of a harbor. The blunt teeth of wood docks, then the line to the north, a rising hill whose fort surveyed smoke haze, murmuring streets, where growling wolfmen and pale-eyed elves draped in the silk of the purest kind that once glowed between the mulberry trees as harvesters passed under branches with their paper lanterns, their fairy gold and silver sleeves shine, runes of their secret art, songs that are sung in wooded places, never heard by the ears of men. Then I create a curved wall that follows the line that ran from her hairline, down her bare shoulder to the edge of her cranberry blouse. This wall held the noble palaces away from rolling masses of the bazaar, passing under the high silver gate guarded by faceless men whose helmets make them look like crows, ran a great avenue, bordered with golden leaf trees whose white blossoms smell of her honey-scented perfume. The classroom bursts with escaping sound as students pour through the doors to capture lunch, flirtations, heat of bodies, the shock of brief touches of bare skin. She passes my desk, rolling her eyes. Dungeons and Dragons? What is that? A map? I blink, then flatly. This is Caliban, a city I drew.
Can you have to while you're up there?
What's that? I can't tell. It goes really, really slow.
Oh, you're gonna go that way?
Awesome.
Beauty. Hi, Kitty. Hello.
You can say hello, Kitty, too. Yeah, my mom says it, so hello. I also didn't write the comics this summer, which is really bad, and I'm going to work on that. So, what I have is not poetry, it's nonfiction, which if you know me from last year, I did all poetry, and now I'm doing no poetry. So, this is from a memoir that I'm working on. It's kind of self-explanatory, so. His name is Mitch, and he is hammered. I'm not. The invite said BYOB, and I'm driving, so I brought cream soda in glass bottles instead. I'm out of sorts anyway. Cameron left me 3 weeks ago, and here I am, at a party, wearing a black and white striped dress that shows cleavage and calves like I'm in any state to be doing sex things. Mitch is 26, and shorter than me, just a little, and wears a yellow t-shirt that I hope is ironic. He spent the last 10 minutes raving about his first real job. $10 an hour, 40 hours a week, and a name badge. He's a perpetual student at Salt Lake Community College and doesn't seem to aspire to be much beyond permanent call center employee. An hour after meeting him, I decide I want to kiss him. He's cute enough, and I want to feel a boy's lips again. He's caught on to my motives. We sit and watch the fire. Him with his legs stretched, me with my legs stretched in front of me, crossed at the ankle, him knees drawn to his chest, kneading my back with a drunk palm. Sometimes he stretches his hand farther south than he should, letting his fingers swipe the soft spot where my spine ends. But I don't care. It feels nice to have a boy touch me. When I leave, it's past 2 a.m. I ask him to escort me to my car, though for him it's more like a stumble. He's not in a position to protect me from a kitten. But I want to kiss him, away from the other boozed-up 20-somethings lingering in the backyard of the near stranger. He leans against the passenger door and watches as I drop remaining bottles into my trunk. As I slam it shut, I close the space between our bodies and look into hazy eyes. Can I kiss you? It's long and sloppy, different than the pecs Cameron used to give. Mitch's hands travel past my waist, and I guide them back up. I just want to kiss. He presses me against the car until I pull my face to the side for air. He leers at me, smiling without teeth. You're on Facebook, right? I say. Sure am. I'll find you. Look out for the friend request. Sure will. Thanks for the escort. Sure thing. He kisses me again, then slouches back to the looming house where everyone else is sitting around a bonfire or dancing in the living room or passed out on an oversized couch. I could go back there and get lost in a haze of substances, but instead I drive south, smiling to myself. I don't plan on seeing him again, but this time I'm the one leaving him behind.
Has inspiration by any chance seized anyone else?
Does Ron have anything?
Ron, do you want to read?
We gotta hear from you.
Okay, come on up.
All right.
Right.
Hi, Ron.
New chapter. About to begin, new chapter in my life. My wife, my wife. I'll be husband and stepdad. Those are titles I've never had. Although it helped me be up to the test, and I knew those as much I asked. But love came in, and daughters too. So I went ashore. Now that I do.
Thank you everyone for coming, and remember, September 26th, Eric Bishop will be the featured reader, and then of course we'll have open mic afterwards.
Thank you, Jim.